Hey, everybody, welcome to the Pop Culture Podcast. I think this is episode 63. I'm not sure, but I think it's 63. Could be 62, but I'm pretty sure it's 63. No Tom this week, but we have Molly. Hey, Molly, thanks for sitting in.
Hey,
Always excited to have you.
he says excitedly.
Sometimes I think you're smarter than Tom, so it should be a good conversation.
I mean, of course I'm smarter than Tom.
Yeah. You can get all your jabs in on Tom this week because he gets his jabs in every week on you. So now it's your turn. So feel free.
That's not fair. He's not here.
He's not there? Oh, all right. Well, that's even more fair. All right, let's start this episode with you know what time it is, don't you, Molly?
Yeah.
All right, enough of that.
Wait, but I haven't been following Kanye at all this
You
week.
haven't been following Kanye. Well, there's not much to report this week. This week, the only news, I guess I'd call it, is Kanye spent $275,000 on a purse for his girlfriend. 275. Let that sink in. $275,000 for a purse.
I mean, that's a house.
That's a house, yeah. Good news for Pete, though. That means that he didn't spend $275,000 on a hitman to make him disappear. So
but
Pete's safe for another day. That's a good joke. That is a fine joke. I can see Tom using that joke.
Yes.
That's a fine joke. There's nothing wrong with that joke.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, Kanye, he's been kind of laying low. Maybe somebody had a talk with him, his people said, Kanye, you're just acting too nuts. Gotta slow your roll. Maybe.
For a look-alike girlfriend?
Yeah, she's a lookalike. Yeah, I can't remember what her name is, but yeah, she looks exactly like Kim Kardashian.
I didn't even know he had a girlfriend. That's how much I.
Yeah. He's definitely got a type. Definitely has a type.
Okay.
Have you been following the Ezra Miller? What's going on with old Ezra?
I saw some of the stuff he posted, and it makes me say I watched The Flash when it first came out, and I really enjoyed it, and I thought he was a good choice for that character.
He's a really good actor, and I think he's really good in The Flash. And I liked him in the Grindelwald. What's the Harry Potter spinoff? I can't even remember. Fantastic Beasts. Yeah. I thought he was good in that, but man, I think his big career is over. I don't know if he can come back from that.
Well,
he was
over some kind of grudge or something.
No, well, he was arrested in Hawaii. He was out whooping it up at a bar in Hawaii, and some lady decided that she wanted to karaoke Lady Gaga, and Ezra took issue with that. He didn't like her choice of song, so he lunged at her. Like, he got violent, and he lunged at her and like just caused a big old scene. And he was arrested, and he let out on like $500 bail or something. And then after that, he went to their hotel room. He burst, and I'm going to read this. The complainant claims that Miller burst into the bedroom of the petitioner and threatened the alleged male victim by saying, "I will bury you and your slut wife." So he was arrested again, apparently, trying to intimidate the people that he got arrested for harassing in the first place.
Well, so that's really strange, but and crazy of him to do something like that, jeopardize the career that he's got.
He's a strange guy. He's a strange guy.
I'm just, I hadn't heard, I didn't really look at the story or hadn't heard much about this, but just my gut reaction opinion is that there must have been something else going on as well. Like, there must have been like something leading up to that. It wasn't just because of a song choice. There must have been something else, like earlier in the night, or some kind of history there, or
I don't think so.
Justify
I don't think so. He's a weird dude. He was he got in trouble not too long ago. There was a female fan that wanted a picture of him, and they're taking a video of him with this female fan. He put his hands around her neck, like jokingly, but put her hands in, like pretended to choke her, and he threw her to the ground. Just a fan asking for an autograph. So I think he's impulsive, and I think he's just weird. He's a weird guy. So,
well, that's a shame.
I don't know, but it's going to be interesting to see what his future is in like the Fantastic Beasts movie, because Johnny Depp was fired over allegations of spousal abuse. Are they even going to have a Fantastic Beasts movie at the rate everything is going?
Yeah, I was really sad that I was excited to see Johnny Depp in more of them, but I mean, they can't. His career's got to be over. This Ezra, like, you can't work with someone that's, I don't know. That
Yeah, I don't
seems
know. I mean,
very
I've never
unpredictable.
heard. I haven't heard like on set stories of him acting weird or acting out. I've heard nothing but professional things about him. But
Yeah,
who knows? I mean, is he going to get insured? I don't know. There's a lot of questions, not enough answers.
yeah.
But he's a weird dude. We're going to keep an eye on that and maybe have updates. Who
Okay,
knows? You want to bring in our guest? Let's bring in our
sure.
guest.
There's nothing else. Okay.
There he is.
I like the
Michael
long
says
pause. Like, should we bring in our guest?
she wasn't sure.
Crickets.
I thought that he had something else he wanted to talk about, but I guess not.
Well, nothing too spicy.
Okay then.
I learned some stuff during that, so that was
Good.
cool.
Good.
It's not I don't usually keep up with the pop culture gossip and such. So
Oh yeah, yeah. Do you like Ezra Miller as an actor? Have you seen?
I do. He's funny enough. I always forget that he was in that first Fantastic Beasts movie, and I mean that in a very
Yeah,
positive way because it was very interesting, very transformative. And I haven't actually seen him in the role of the Flash because I've actually not seen any of those Justice League movies yet. I'm still working my way through the DC films
sure.
because it's a very unpopular opinion, but I actually prefer them to a lot of the Marvel films. So like I like giving myself something to savor. So I've just kind of
Yeah,
been working through them slowly. But my first time seeing him, or at least the first time that he stuck out to me, was Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Oh
I
yeah,
thought he was
yeah,
incredible in that movie. Just I know that movie for whatever reason has a lot of haters, but I just really thought that was a really well made movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
It
Well,
was.
and the Flash, he has. I think he was in one of the movies briefly, but has there been a Flash movie, or was it just the series? There was a Netflix series.
There's a big Flash movie coming out.
Wait, he was in the Flash TV series?
No, he wasn't in the TV series.
Oh,
That's
okay.
a different. That's a different universe, different Flash, different.
Mm.
Oh, that's a
Universe.
different one.
Yeah,
Well, that's the fun
Okay.
thing about comic books, though. Eventually they could all become the same universe.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm looking at his filmography right now, and yeah, Perks of Being a Wallflower, I think, was the first time that I had seen him, and it's kind of interesting. He's had an interesting rise. Did a lot of small little indie films. Perks of Being a Wallflower hit big, and then it's like I just feel like as soon as he got cast to be Flash, it's just all big projects. What
Yeah.
they always say: you just need that one thing to catch on.
Yeah.
I think he's a
Interesting.
they. I think he goes by they.
Oh, sorry.
Do you want to hear a fun movie fact that I learned this week that I'm just excited about?
I'd love to.
It's a little nerdy, but I watched the Mary Poppins Returns this week.
Yeah, yeah.
It's been out since 2018, but I hadn't watched it because I thought it was like a remake, and I had heard things about it, and I was like, you can't like mess with the original.
My wife loves that movie.
I started watching
I enjoyed it.
because I really like Emily Blunt, and I was like, why not? So I watched it, and it was cute. The only complaint I had was that the music wasn't as good. But I was looking at some facts after I watched it, and found out that with the original Mary Poppins, Julie Andrews, who played Mary Poppins, had been doing a Broadway show, basically the My Fair Lady on Broadway before it was My Fair Lady. It was a different name. And they didn't cast her as the main character because she wasn't famous enough. They cast Audrey Hepburn instead. That year, Julie Andrews played Mary Poppins. Not Julie Andrews. No, I'm wrong. Did I have the wrong actress?
For Mary Poppins?
Yeah.
That was Julie Andrews.
Yeah. Okay. Julie Andrews.
You had me second guessing myself.
I don't know why. But same year, she played Mary Poppins. And My Fair Lady swept the Oscars in every single category except Best Actress. And guess who won? The actress they skipped over for that role for Mary Poppins. Julie Andrews won.
That's
I
fantastic.
thought it was funny and cute.
Yeah, that reminds me of a story I told a couple weeks ago with King Kong Lives when was it Meryl Streep auditioned for King Kong Lives, or not King Kong Lives, the King Kong 79, King Kong 77, whatever. the one that went to Jessica Lange. But yeah, Meryl Streep auditioned for that, and Dino De Laurentiis told Meryl Streep, "You're too ugly to be in movies. You're far too ugly. You
Oh
are
my, that
never going to go anywhere. You are never going to go anywhere. You might as well just pack up your bags, go back home, and
that
forget."
doesn't surprise me for Dino De Laurentiis
Yeah,
at
and then like
all.
the year after, she won an Academy Award for The Deer Hunter. And she's got like 8 Academy Awards or something, nominated for 12, like it's some insane amount. But yeah, that was.
Yeah.
Don't give
Wow.
up on your dreams, kids. Don't give up on your dreams.
Yeah, it's interesting how often, like, you hear stories about that all the time. Unfortunately, I can't think of any at this very moment, but it's usually when someone is at their lowest, when someone's telling them that they can't do this or they've been trying for a while. Because yeah, there's definitely overnight success stories, but a lot of times it's usually for someone who's been really busting their ass for a long time and it just hasn't worked, and it just takes that one spark. And
Yeah.
I also think spite needs to play into it sometimes a little bit, because I'm sure it would have been very easy at the when Dino De Laurentiis said this at that time. He was one of the biggest producers in Hollywood, arguably.
Yeah.
And it'd be very easy. And I can't say I would have reacted well about that if that happened to me. It's like it's probably very easy to tuck your tail between your legs and be like, well, I guess I'm moving back to Nebraska or whatever the fuck she's from. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe she's from Hollywood, and just give up. But she just kept doing it, and more people know who Meryl Streep is than Dino De Laurentiis.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll watch any movie with Meryl Streep in it just because she's in it.
Yeah, like she's one of those actors that she doesn't have to try, and she's still good.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then when she does bring it, then she's fucking excellent.
Yeah. I wonder how many Academy Awards she does have. I was just spitballing it.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's accurate. I know she's got a bunch.
Yeah.
God, having the internet is phenomenal because we can all just start looking this up.
Yeah, that was my subtle hint to you, because I know you're probably on IMDb right now. So that was my very subtle hint.
Yeah.
Oh, to get him to look it up for you?
You can actually check and see how many
Let's see.
Oscars
1, 2.
Meryl Streep has.
Let's see. Okay, so she's been nominated a bunch.
I thought she'd been nominated a ton, but hadn't won a bunch.
She's won 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
3.
Which is amazing.
She's pretty much she's almost been nominated every single year since The Deer Hunter. Almost.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that something? Jeez.
But that she just
21
nominations and
21 in total, 17 for Best Actress, 4 for Best Supporting Actress.
I wonder if that's a record.
That has to. Oh, it says here, as well as one of only 13 performers to win an Oscar in both acting categories. Oh, never mind. That's it has to be a record. Let's see. I know. Yeah, I'm not seeing if that's a record, but let's find out who has the record for the most Oscar nominations. I wouldn't be surprised if it's someone maybe like Walt Disney, only just because when he was making, because not only was he producing films, so he was getting for that. But I remember there was one year, I think he won 4 Oscars. It was because he got it for Best Documentary, Best Animated Film, Best Feature. He got there's a year that he got 4 of them.
Yeah, Tom says Burt Reynolds and Clint Eastwood were fired on the same day for being ugly.
That is one of my favorite. I tell that story when I'm applying for jobs, actually.
Really?
Yes, because the story is great. Because I remember I had a job interview and I was applying for a job that I was. Oh, real quick to answer your question, it is Meryl Streep. She has the record for the most amount of Oscar nominations.
Wow.
But I tell the story whenever I'm applying for a job that I'm really not qualified for. Because they usually bring the question, especially because they look at your resume and they're like, you don't have a whole lot of.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, Dean.
But they'll say they always ask questions like, well, see, you don't have a lot of experience doing this, and I tell that story. I was like, let me tell you a story. So once upon a time, Burt Reynolds and Clint Eastwood were under contract with each other at the same studio, and Clint Eastwood hadn't made any of his big pictures yet. Burt Reynolds was still pretty much an unknown, and they were called into the office at the same time, which is never a good sign. And we're both pretty much, they went into the head of the studio and he said, okay, guys, I got to let you both out of your contract. And they're like, why? And I was like, okay. He's like, Clint Eastwood? No, he first started with Burt Reynolds. He's like, Burt Reynolds, you can't act. And then he looked at Clint Eastwood and was like, and you have a huge Adam's apple that no one likes to look at. Afterwards, they go out and have a couple drinks together, and Burt Reynolds is like, hey, man, I'm really sorry. Clint Eastwood was like, what do you mean? You got fired too? He's like, yeah, but I can learn to act. So I tell that story when I have job interviews.
That's funny.
If it comes up organically. I usually try to force it in usually because I think it's
How
a
does
fun
that
story.
come up organically in a job interview?
Well, usually when they're asking, you know, why I'm applying for a job I'm not qualified for.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I'll tell that story.
All right. That
And
makes
it's
sense.
usually a good
like
like a little punchline. So
Yeah.
I love
I
that
like
story.
I like it. You know, speaking of Clint Eastwood, have you ever seen his son, Scott Eastwood, in any movies?
Yeah,
It is
I feel
scary.
like I
It is-
just saw him recently.
yeah,
in
I just
something.
watched him in The Outpost. It is scary how much he looks like Clint Eastwood. Like,
Yeah.
it is creepy.
Especially too, because like, you know, like I grew up with Clint, you know, older Clint Eastwood, so I sometimes forget what younger Clint Eastwood looked like until you go back and it's like, damn, he was a good
Watch
looking
a
man.
Scott Eastwood movie, and you'll see what young Clint looks like. It's
Pretty much. What did I just watch him in? I watched him in something where I was surprised by how funny he was. Huh.
Yeah, I know he had a little part in the first Suicide Squad.
Mm-hmm.
David Ayer's Suicide Squad. He was one of the
Mhm.
agents, whatever. But I watched him. He starred in The Outpost, which is a really good movie.
That one I haven't seen yet.
That was a really good movie. It was like based on a true story, Afghanistan army story.
Interesting.
They're all the same. They're all the same. This one was really good.
Yeah, not usually my go-to genre, but you know, every so often those films will catch you and they'll just. So I usually look for recommendations. You know.
What is your preferred genre?
That's hard to say just because like I feel like I usually I was always known as the horror guy when I was in school, and part of that was because I did love horror, but then I went to an experimental art film school, so like horror was looked down upon, so I just really just dug my heels in to piss off my professors. It depends because I have such a wide interest in so many different types of film. It switches a lot. I feel like horror and comedy are definitely the ones I go back to because they're just kind of like comfort. You know, when you don't know what you want to watch, you can throw something on from one of those two genres and probably be entertained. But there are definitely times like, you know, right after you know, the fall, I distance myself more from a little bit just because I'm burnt out. Right now I'm kind of been in I'm trying to catch up on some of the big mindless action films. Like I'm trying to catch up on some of the DC films I've missed. I've been making I need to make time so I can finish watching, so I can actually watch the Snyder Cut, because I'd like to watch it all in one take. I have heard he broke it up. You've seen it, right, Chris? I assume you've seen it. You were a big supporter of it.
Oh yeah.
He breaks it up into chapters, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Okay. But yeah, and funny enough, like, but so I would say it's definitely horror and comedy. Like, if you were to look at my like Letterboxd year in review, those are usually the two genres I that are most well represented.
Did you watch the Academy Awards this year?
I did, yeah.
Did you?
Yeah,
I refuse to watch it.
It's because it's habit now at this point. It's even when I don't necessarily enjoy the show, I guess part of it is just tied to memories. And the first time I watched it, I was like 11 years old, and like that's when I first started getting into the idea of filmmaking. I guess I always watch hoping that it's going to be the show that I remember, but I don't even know if the show that I remember was even the show that it was.
That's true. You look at it from different eyes. Like,
yeah, because like
kid.
I watch it or try to watch it every year, just when there's kernels of when the show works, like for it was either best film or best director. They had Kevin Costner come out and he gave a really incredible speech, just, you know, about the love of cinema, and I think that's what the show should be. I really think they need to stop pandering to the masses, and because, you know, having a certain host is not gonna really make people want to watch. They just need to make the show a good show for the people who actually want to fucking watch the show. But now they're alienating the people who did want to watch the show.
Yeah.
You know, I don't need to see bits. I don't need to see skits. I don't need to see, you know, Amy Schumer in a Spider-Man costume. Just honestly, I'm very easily impressed. I can just get, you know, Give me clip shows with dramatic music, and that's fucking all I need, and some good speeches. Like,
No, I refuse to watch it this year. It didn't interest me in the slightest. In this first year, I can remember that I wasn't excited about the Oscars, but I can't stand Amy Schumer. I cannot stand that woman. There's no way in hell I would ever watch anything that's hosted by her. Just don't like her.
I don't really have an opinion one way or the other with her.
And it just, you know,
Her shtick is just kind of old.
I wonder how long it's going to be until the Academy Award telecast goes the way of the MDA telethon. You know, nobody
How do you
cares
mean?
about it anymore. Well, the telethon, they don't have the telethon anymore. It's not,
It's fair.
there isn't a telethon anymore. You know, how long is the Oscars going to hold out? Because viewership is just tanking. It's terrible.
Well, they're gonna have to see that and do something different. Maybe bring it back to the way it was. I don't know.
Yeah, because like
You're too scared to. You're going to get canceled.
Well, then they're gonna have no ratings and not, you know, I don't know.
it's a weird double-edged sword, because there's nothing about the Oscars that should be a ratings fiesta anyways. You know, it is very self-serving. It's not anything that's interesting unless you just love movies.
Yeah.
It really not like so it's like it's even like when I was like my most hardcore to the Oscars and trying to keep up with everything and all the films, I never understood this desire to get ratings, because honestly, even when I was a kid, I just thought they put this on like out of obligation, not because they actually had to compete for ratings. It's so weird that like to see that here's a relatively, even though everyone loves movies, this is a niche thing.
Mhm.
This is a niche program. It's weird to see that, you know, they're like, it just feels like they're trying to compete with like the Super Bowl, and they should be like,
Well, it's all tied into profit. I mean, you
Yeah,
want a
of
profitable
course.
show. You want advertisers to spend the big money on your show.
Yeah.
Without that, you know, why would they show the Oscars and not another show that might get better ratings and pull in better
Mhm.
viewers and, you know, more advertiser dollars? So they just want the advertiser dollars. Obviously, they want profit.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I always, Grant, I don't know if it's still this way, but everyone, when IFC first became a channel, you could watch the Independent Spirit Awards every year, and that was just like a really kind of low key thing, and it's pretty much what I wanted from the Oscars. And I always wondered, like, how did that survive? How did that go so long? Because they weren't, you know, one, they're on a paid channel. I don't think anyone was watching the Independent Spirit Awards unless you really fucking love movies. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what can be done to fix the Oscars, and I think anything that can be done, I think the people in charge are too afraid to do, as you said, Molly. Like, or was it Chris? I don't know. Someone
I think
said that.
Chris said that.
Okay, but it's you know, I think they're just too afraid to do it, and they keep coming up with all these plans to draw people. And it honestly reminds me of professional wrestling. You know, Vince McMahon of the WWE, he's doing all these things to pull in the casual viewer, the person that hasn't watched since they're 12 years old. And that's for whatever reason the audience they're trying to get, instead of the people that actually want to watch it. Chris, you're a big movie guy like myself. I got a feeling while you didn't watch the Oscars this year, this just said this first year you haven't been excited for. If I may make an assumption, I feel like you want to be excited for it again. You want that to be a good show, but we're not the people they're aiming for, and that's unfortunate. They're trying to get, you know, someone like my mom. I love my mom to death, but she doesn't know most of these movies.
Yeah, I don't know what audience they're trying to pull in, but whatever it is, it's not working.
It was the first year we didn't watch it either, and normally we try to watch as many of the nominated movies as we can, and we do like a show on it for our show, and we have everyone like make picks, and we didn't do any of that this year. It was the first year. I don't know.
It wasn't exciting. Usually it's like event television, you know, you really look forward to the Oscars.
Yeah, it wasn't last year. I think it was maybe in the year before. I wanted to see it. I bought a antenna just so I have an antenna just so I can watch Sven Gulli in the Oscars, and then occasionally reruns of Bonanza. And I remember I was so excited to watch it that year because for whatever reason I missed the year before, and we had to go to town to do something to help my wife and and my mother-in-law, and I was like freaking out because I knew we weren't going to get back in time, so I actually had to sign up for like YouTube TV for like the month just so I can DVR it. Because like it's also a show that's not fun watching after the fact. You either watch it when it's happening and are involved with the conversation, whether or not whether it's be Twitter or friends that you have or something, or you just don't watch it at all. So I assume I'm not a huge sports guy, but I'm assuming it's the same way with the Super Bowl. Like if you don't watch the Super Bowl when it's happening, there's no point in watching it. But I don't know. Maybe there are people who like watching it 2 days later. I don't know.
I'm sure there are. They just try to avoid social media and the news and everything, so they don't know what the score is.
Oh yeah, good luck with that.
It's pretty impossible these days.
Yeah.
You used to be able to.
Yeah, speaking of spoilers now, Morbius, the whole thing is ruined. The whole thing was spoiled by the director.
Really? How?
Sony decided to let him do a question and answer with Cinema Blend, and they were able to ask questions like spoiler questions, like the post-credit scene was spoiled. Everything was spoiled.
What?
The director, this was from the director, completely spoiled the whole movie. We know exactly what the post-credit scene is. We know exactly where Spider-Man fits in, where Venom fits into the universe. It's ridiculous.
Is that movie out? Did it just come out?
I think it comes out tomorrow.
Oh, why?
Yeah,
Why do you do that?
I don't know. Maybe Sony, my theory is Sony thinks that spoilers are a good thing because the early spoilers that we got from No Way Home really got people excited.
I guess it gets people talking about it.
That was going to be my thought. Is they're trying to lure people into the theater because I feel like movies are very much starting to become this thing where like people want to know what's going to happen beforehand so they know if they should waste their time.
Why?
Or I don't know. I don't know if this just is how it feels. Because like I remember being really annoyed when No Way Home was coming out, and I remember a friend of mine posted like an article being like, it said, who's the actor who plays Spider-Man now?
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland. It's like, oh, Tom Holland didn't know Willem Dafoe was in No Way Home until he saw him on set. And I was like, I didn't know Willem Dafoe was even in this fucking movie until I saw the headline for this article. And he argued with me. He's like, well, this is how they're going to get people in the theater. I'm like, I don't think Spider-Man's going to be hurting for butts in the seats. Like,
no, but it worked. It created a lot of buzz for that movie, and I knew the spoilers like a year and a half before the movie opened, and I posted some spoilers. I tried to keep marking spoilers, but
I always appreciate that you did that because like, I don't dig for spoilers, but like I also don't try to avoid them. It's just if they come to me organically, sure. I'm just not seeking them out. So
I knew like a year and a half. Like when I was talking to people about spoilers, I told them, I said, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are in this movie. They're going to be Spider-Man. And oh, no, they're not. They're not. People just couldn't believe it. And I remember that first, the first video footage that we got. I can spoil it now for you, Mike, because you've probably seen it. But
yeah, I've seen it.
It was the scene where Tobey and Andrew were they're on the scaffolding and the Statue of Liberty. Mm-hmm. There was a scene that leaked of Andrew Garfield. And people said it was fake. It was photoshopped. Even Andrew Garfield said it was fake and photoshopped.
Well,
we have
contractually obligated to.
Yeah, obviously. But we have 8K video, and it's photoshopped. That's just But yeah, so many times that Andrew Garfield was asked, "Are you in Spider-Man: No Way Home?" and he had to say no.
I appreciate his dedication to keeping it going because there's other actors who probably wouldn't. Hell, Tom Holland can't even keep his fucking mouth shut half the time. He's terrible with that.
Terrible. He was almost as bad as who was it? Mark Ruffalo with Avengers. He spoiled the whole thing in an early interview with Don Cheadle. I don't know if you guys saw that footage. It's out there. But
I might have seen it back when it happened. Yeah.
Mark Ruffalo and Don Cheadle were doing an interview, and Mark Ruffalo said, "Oh, wait till you see this one. Everybody dies." And Don Cheadle's like, "Dude." Don Cheadle got really mad at Mark Ruffalo. It was a really awkward moment. But that was obviously, the Thanos snap and half the people disappeared.
Yeah, and I guess
they didn't really die.
Spoilers is a strange thing because like I never get upset if I see a spoiler because like, I was poking the bear a little bit with my friend about the the Willem Dafoe thing because my ultimate goal thing is it's like, well, this would have been a nice reveal. It doesn't ruin the movie for me necessarily. Yeah. I don't know. Spoilers are one of those things that, like I said, I don't seek them out necessarily. Because I do still like going in as blind as possible. I don't watch a lot of trailers.
Gotta go in
I'll,
fresh.
I'll make exceptions. Like if there's like an indie film that I've never heard of or something, I'll watch like the first 30 seconds just to get a visual idea of like tone and what the film looks like. But I don't need necessarily the trailer. I just kind of want to know what it's going to look like. But like say like the Marvel films or Spider-Man or something like that, like or Star Wars, I know what it's going to be. Even if I don't know what it is, like it's within the wheelhouse of what I can understand. But like a lot of No Way Home was spoiled for me before it came out. It didn't hurt my enjoyment of the film. I still had a great time. I didn't have that like wow factor, but that's also not why I go to the film, why I go to movies. It's not why I watch television shows. I just want to be told a good story. For me, it's like I care less about the spoiler and more like, okay, now I know this thing happens. Well, how do we get there? And that's ultimately what I'm looking for. Like, because a spoiler could just be shock and awe, but it doesn't mean it's earned. Like, because there's a lot of ways where No Way Home could have not been turned out as good as it did. You could have just had these characters there, or I don't know. There's a poor version of No Way Home that was probably written at some point. But yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like the story it earned its these big moments.
Yeah.
If spoilers completely ruined the movie, why would you ever watch movies that were based on like books that you'd read?
Yeah.
Ooh, Molly with knowledge bombs here. That's a good point. Yeah,
Well,
like speaking of Star Wars, I read when the prequel trilogy came out, the books were released before the movie, so I read all the books before I saw the movie. So yeah, the movie was completely ruined for me from reading the book. Now I think they release books after the movies. I don't know if they still release them before. I think they release them after.
Yeah, I think I know that for a while they were doing them like simultaneously for the people that say couldn't make it out to the movie or for whatever reason. But
during the pandemic, but I think they stopped doing that, and they started having a certain amount of time before you could stream it, so that to try to get people out to the theater.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The Batman streaming April 19th.
That's a quick turnaround.
45 days. Yep.
Huh.
Oh, but that one's worth seeing at a theater for sure. That one's good.
It is, yeah. It is. Did you see the
Batman? Good.
Oh yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great.
I wanted to hate Robert Pattinson as Batman too.
A lot of people did. A lot of people did. I went in ready to embrace, weirdo. I haven't seen the sunlight in months. Batman. I was fucking ready for it.
Howdy, Edward.
Good comic book movie. Did you guys see the deleted scene with the Joker?
I've seen it float around on the internet. Yeah, it's a good scene. I don't necessarily feel like it was needed.
You gotta watch the scene. You gotta watch the scene.
I did watch it.
You did watch it? Okay, I thought you said you saw it.
Oh no, I saw it floating around online. That's why I watched it.
I thought you said the photo online. Yeah.
No. I've seen the scene. It's a really good scene. I see why it was cut. It didn't really. I'm curious where it would have been because I just like I just don't feel like it really fit anywhere.
With the Joker, wasn't the Joker the one you see at the very?
That was. You didn't see the deleted scene? There's a deleted scene where the Batman goes to Arkham, and he has an interview with the Joker. It was very much like the scene between Batman and the Riddler, but it was the Joker, and he gave him the case files and asked him questions. It was very Hannibal Lecter-ish.
Well, but you hear the Joker talking with.
Yeah, you hear him.
Yeah. This is just more of it, and he's actually interacting with the Batman.
Deleted scene, you actually see him. You see more of him in like clear light, and not like perfect angles, but you see him.
I just thought it was cool the way that they had it in the movie, where there was some like plausible, like I think that's who it is, but you're not completely. I don't know. I guess it was pretty obvious that that's who it was. Never mind. Don't listen to me.
I'm listening to you.
For me, it's the voice. I feel like everyone is so everyone after Mark Hamill just feels like they're doing a version of Mark Hamill as the Joker. Everyone's Joker voice is kind of the same, and actually after rewatching the '89 Batman recently, it's actually the thing that struck me so much about Jack Nicholson as the Joker. It's like, oh, he's just doing his own version of this fucking character. And I appreciate that.
Well, Jack Nicholson kind of always does that with his characters. He puts his own spin on everything.
Oh, definitely, yeah. But no, I pretty much went into the Batman thinking I was gonna like it. It'd be kind of like, I don't know. It's based on all the material I saw leading up to it. It's like there's no way I'm gonna hate this movie. It may not
That's
necessarily have been what I wanted it to be, but I really liked it.
is that the new Joker?
That's him. Yeah, this is from this. This is it's a splice. This isn't an actual scene from the movie. You only see him either from the nose up or the nose down. You don't see his full face. So this is kind of a Photoshop of what he looks like.
That
It's a creepy
is
face.
really, really creepy, and I don't like it. I
And
don't like it.
you see that his like the top of his head, he's missing a bunch of hair, like he had like burns or something, like fell into acid. But the theory, what this theory is, and I tend to believe this theory. Do you remember the scene where Gordon is talking to another officer about what happened to his partner's face? This is Gordon's partner, because that was originally Barry
Oh,
Keoghan was cast as like a officer so and so, Officer Schultz or something. He was cast as a police officer, and then they
Interesting.
changed that name. They changed that name to unnamed Arkham prisoner. So this is going to be Gordon's ex-partner that something happened to him and turned him into the Joker.
oh,
That's kind of an interesting take on it. It's something a little different. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah. I'm 99.999% positive that that's going to be his story.
does the one eye look a little cloudy, or is that just
It could
the?
be. It could be. Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't know, but I think this is a cool take on the Joker. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not.
it's something different because like I almost feel like it's kind of like a hybrid of what we've gotten. We've gotten the man who in makeup version. We've gotten the man who fell into chemicals version. This kind of feels like almost like meeting somewhere in the middle.
It fits the universe well. I think.
Yeah.
It's grounded. It's not comical like Jack Nicholson's Joker. It's not
But
like
it still has like this air of, because what I liked so much about the world of this version of Batman was it's grounded, but it's just like comic booky enough
yeah,
where there are things that are just heightened enough that, and that's kind of where I think that kind of like this lives. Because like as much as I love like say the Nolan Batmans, there's sometimes I wish they would have just had just a little bit more of like the comic stylizations at times, and I feel like that's what this Matt
Yeah.
Reeves Batman does really well.
yeah. I think Heath Ledger is still my favorite Joker. I think
Yeah, he always will be.
he just nailed that, and I don't think anybody's ever going to beat that.
Mm-hmm.
All props to Mark Hamill. He's a great voice actor too, but
It's
Heath
a
Ledger,
very different version of it too.
it is, yeah.
Yes.
Like Mark Hamill's version of the Joker is nothing like Heath Ledger's,
Yeah.
and
Well, the same thing with Joaquin Phoenix. His Joker was fabulous too, but I don't know,
Yeah.
something about Heath Ledger.
mm-hmm.
I agree. Well, and this Batman, Tom said too, because he's a big fan of the comics, and he said that he really loved this one because in the comics it was much more of a film noir, like
Yeah.
gritty detective like style. Like that's who Batman was. Like he was more of a, and that's kind of what this felt like. And I liked it a lot. I really liked the direction they went with it, and I'm curious to see what they do differently with all the other characters going forward.
I also it didn't feel like it didn't feel its runtime too, and I was.
Yeah.
It's always
No.
it's tricky. It's hard to do. As someone who's made films myself, I couldn't tell you what this did different than another film. It's just sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Because I do say that runtime is it doesn't necessarily hurt the film for me, but it does push back how quickly I'm going to watch it if I can't see it in a theater.
Yeah.
Theater, it's like it just kind of commands your attention in a different way than it does at home. But yeah, like because like I want to see one of the films that I do really want to see that was nominated for an Oscar was Drive My Car, and it's pretty much got the same runtime as the Batman, but the runtime's been holding me back a little bit, and it just like the Batman just didn't feel its length because I'm definitely from the camp that I feel like
My wife says the same thing.
a 90-minute movie is like the sweet spot.
I think anybody got that joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to see the Batman again. I saw it that Thursday opening night, and I had a terrible experience. That's just a terrible experience in the theater. So I'm looking forward to seeing it again. I told you that story, right, Molly? I said it on the podcast.
Yes.
Batman going experience.
Yes, you did.
Almost threw hands with that guy. So,
Dang.
Mike, I'll explain to you. What's your biggest pet peeve when you're in a theater? When you're in a movie theater, you're seeing a movie with a bunch of people, crowded cinema. What's your biggest pet peeve
Are we talking biggest pet peeve with the theater or with the audience?
with the audience?
With the audience is probably just cell phone light.
Oh, thank you very much. That's my biggest pet peeve. I hate it. Can't stand it. I will call you out. I will call you by name. I will point at you. I will shame you. I will do anything I can to call attention to you. So this guy in front of me, okay, so they come in, this guy and girl. She brings a fucking laptop in the theater with her.
What?
Who brings a laptop into a movie theater?
Why?
Like, okay, whatever. She's doing some typety type stuff. The guy's looking at funny cat videos on Snapchat. Clearly, they're going to put this shit away before the movie starts, right? Obviously, they're going to do it. I say that to myself. Movie starts. She puts the laptop away, thankfully. But the dude's like still watching funny cat videos on Snapchat. And I sit there and I wait like a minute, and Batman's starting on screen. It's all dark and broody, and this bright ass screen right in front of me. Funny cat videos. So I get up. I say, hey, that's really distracting to the people that are sitting behind you. Could you please not do that, or take it to the lobby? And they look at me like I've just got rocks climbing out of my ears. They sit and stare at me. So we have this awkward silence together. I eventually go, okay, thanks. And I go back to my seat. Like 30 seconds later, his fucking phone is out again, and he's watching funny cat videos on his Snapchat.
Then why the hell did you pay for a movie ticket? What?
So yeah, so I get pissed. I'm like, I'm gonna go tattle on this guy. So I get up.
I'm not above that. I'll do that all the time.
I go find the nearest like 16-year-old usher. I tell him, hey, there's a guy in row B, seat 12. He's watching funny cat videos on Snapchat. Can you go tell him to stop, please? Okay, sir. I'll get right on that. And he did. To his credit, he went to talk to the guy. Oh, okay, cool. Everything is taken care of now. I can watch Batman kick some ass on the big screen. 30 seconds later, funny cat videos on Snapchat. I'm steaming. I'm really mad. And I'm nice to you once. I'm only nice to you once. If you make me talk to you again, I'm not so nice. So my wife gets up and she goes out to the lobby and she talks to somebody who a little bit more authoritative. And the guy comes and he talks to the guy. They have a long conversation, and the guy's nodding. Okay, this is it. This is it. No more phones. Great, no more phones. So the manager leaves and tells me and my wife, hey, if you have any problems, let me know. And the guy gives me the middle finger. Like, I'm sorry. We paid like $150 for fucking tickets and dinner. I don't want to watch you watching funny cat videos. I want to watch Batman kicking ass on the screen.
Yeah.
Why get the middle finger? But he didn't go on his phone for the rest of the film until like the last scene. The last scene, just before the credits start rolling, brings out his phone, funny cat videos. I think just to get me, just to get at me, like he had the last laugh. So that was my Batman theater going.
So for me, I feel like I read horror stories all the time online of people like talking about terrible experiences in the theater. I don't know if I'm just lucky or if I have a higher tolerance for annoyance or what it is. Just because you read some stories like this seems like a legitimate nightmare. So I'm not downplaying what you went through, but like I feel like when I I do have situations someone on their phone. Thankfully for me, it's usually I don't know if it's where I sit, where I choose to sit, or it's rarely constant.
Mm-hmm.
Talking's never been a big thing for me because I feel like it's also very rare that the movie is quiet enough that unless they're like sitting right next to me that I can hear what anyone is saying. Because I'll make comments or something to my wife, and I'm not having a full on conversation. That's a little different. But the worst experience I ever had was there was this. I went to go see that movie. I think it was the Woman in Black with Daniel Radcliffe.
Good movie.
Yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit. Even with the issues I had, there was a guy who brought. So this is a rated R movie. This guy brought his like 4 under 12-year-old children with him, and the entire time he's on like a Bluetooth earpiece having a really loud conversation the entire movie. Like, I don't think he was off his phone once. And I did the same thing you did. You know, I said something, nothing changed. I went and got people, nothing changed. I think they eventually comped my ticket, which that wasn't what I was trying to get out of it. Like,
Yeah.
if that's what you want to do, sure. Because like I legitimately love going to the movie, so I don't mind paying for it.
Yeah, me too.
But like that was the worst for me. It's like and he was like behind me, and I'm a very sonic person, so like audio matters a whole lot to me.
Mhm.
So like if I just have like, you know, this sound that's in the back right of me this entire time, that's constant, like, because so he wasn't just like, you know, saying a couple things. It was a full-blown conversation. It was in another language, so I couldn't tell you what they were talking about, but I feel like if it was in English, I could have told you the entire conversation. That's how annoying it was.
Yeah, I'm really sensitive. Like, I get irritated easily with shenanigans like that. Like, people
I
talking. I'm really offended. Like, I'm not offended, but I'm really sensitive to that. Um, like, yeah, I always get like two people that are too stupid to figure a movie out alone, so they sit together so they can kind of talk amongst themselves what's happening in the movie. At least that's what I
as long
theorize.
as they're talking quiet, it doesn't bother
Yeah,
me.
quiet talking doesn't bother me.
I had one experience where, and granted, it was at one of the, was it the Marcus has those Tuesdays where you get in for like $5. It doesn't matter what movie it is.
Yeah.
Lucky
So
those.
it was more crowded than normal.
Yeah.
But it was a scary movie, and there were these two girls that were sitting like 2 seats down from me, and there was like no one in between. Uh, and they were talking and screaming and laughing like they were in their living room, like loud,
Mhm.
loud, loud, loud the entire movie. And it was really bad. And I'm not
Steve and
super
I
confrontational, but I did totally lean over and give them like the
Steve and I, Steve,
look.
the Twisted Dreams Film Festival co-director, we went to see Grindhouse, the double feature Grindhouse movie.
I saw that in theaters.
Yeah, when that first came out, and we went to like a 10 o'clock screening. It was a press screening, so there was like press seats, and then there was like free tickets given away to the public to fill the rest of the seats.
Mhm.
And there was this woman that brought like 3 kids that were like
What?
8 years old, 7 years old to this 10 p.m. screening on a Thursday.
There's a lot of issues with this. Why isn't that
Yeah.
kid in school?
Yeah, and that's a long movie. It was like, well, 2 movies is like 3
There's
hours.
also a lot of there's a lot of weirdness in that movie too. Like
Yeah.
Quentin Tarantino's mutant balls, you know, glooping onto the floors. That's not. It's weird for a child to see.
Yeah, I wish we get more of those Grindhouse movies. I wish they'd do more.
Uh-huh.
Rodriguez and Quentin
Yeah.
Tarantino.
I mean, I wish they'd come out with more. I'm just thinking, we're talking about all these, these movies that we've seen, and the last movies for a long time that I've been excited to see and that I've gone and seen in the theater have been either Marvel or DC movies.
I'm burnt out on them.
The Marvel and DC movies.
Batman was really good, but
for the most part, I am too, and I think that's why I'm still like working my way through them slowly. I rarely get excited for them. I like when I do finally go back and watch them and they're good, then it's like, oh, it excites me. But yeah, I'm very much the same way. I'm burnt out on them. Those are usually the ones that I will wait. But I'm also I talked about this a couple days ago on Mark the Movie Man's podcast, where I'm weird where I like to see the quiet movies in a theater. Just because, like, I've got a pretty decent setup at home, good sound system. I've sunk a lot of money into, and like those big, loud action films, I can have a great time at home. Because the theater in a way kind of forces my attention in a way that even with the best intentions at home, sometimes you can't. I've got 3 dogs and all this other stuff going on. I'm a sucker for the pause button, because like I don't want to miss anything, so I pause the movie a lot. Theater kind of cuts down a lot of distractions, and plus I can't pause it. The movie is going to run whether I am up with it or not. So I actually like watching some of the smaller, quieter movies in the theater, just because I know that even though I can have a great experience with them at home, I my attention is different when I'm at the theater. Like I wanted
Yeah.
to see. I eventually watched it at home, but I wanted to see Being the Ricardos in the theater just because I feel like I'll appreciate it more in the theater than I did.
That was a really good movie.
It was. It's people are shitting on it because they hate Aaron Sorkin, and it's not 100% accurate. But I don't expect these movies to be. But it lived up to everything I wanted a movie about Lucy Ricardo to be.
Yeah, I mean, I had zero expectations, so I didn't really go in hoping for anything, but I was pleasantly surprised. Yeah, speaking of the movies, I used to have the bladder of a Viking. I could hold it in for days. I could not pee for days.
I don't know what that's like. I have a children's bladder.
Have you downloaded the GoPee app?
I should, but now
it's an app called GoPee that tells you the best points in a movie to go to the bathroom, and it'll sum up it'll sum up what you missed like while you're in there.
I need that. So now that I'm turning 50 soon, so now I have the bladder of a 12-year-old girl. I have to get up and pee every time I go to a movie. So I don't know.
I'm the same way.
But yeah, in my youth, man, I could power through it, hold it in.
You tell me if it's still out there. We did a story on it a bit ago.
It's called Run Pee.
Yeah,
at least it is on the iPhone. I don't know, but I'm gonna poke around with that. So yeah, it's like honestly, like I would probably choose to see pretty much any movie in a theater if I could, and I think that's ultimately what brought me to wanting to essentially build one of my own. But I still like the act and the ritual of going to a theater. Like
there's nothing like going and getting your candy and your popcorn and sitting in
Like I don't necessarily even care. I don't care about the price. Like I go a little less because of the price, but we budget that into our monthly expenses just because I love to go. And it's I used to work a side job. I think I was doing it right around when I met you, Chris, because we met each other a long time ago through Mike Krakowski, I believe.
Yeah.
He randomly called you up when me and him were getting breakfast. I remember that. I worked a side job where I did marketing and promotions for Marcus Theaters just because anytime you did, so I didn't really make a whole lot of money. I had to be on the pay team. Like I had to be paid to be a team member, but I didn't make a whole lot of money from it. But like I would essentially go paper of the town. I hand out flyers and do all this other stuff. Any of the driving they'd pay me for. And they used to just open up the safe and give me petty cash. And I was like, well, that seems stupid. It's like what do those movie passes cost you? They're like probably like pennies or whatever. And I was like, I don't really want the money. I'm just going to put this money into a theater. Why don't you just give me the equivalent in movie passes? So I did that job for years just so I can get movie passes. And because I was because I was employee, I had a home theater where I could just go to and not have to pay, and I could bring my own vessel for popcorn. And I say vessel because they had it did not have to be a bucket. It's if it was food safe, they would throw popcorn in it. It was great.
Nice. What was your home theater?
It was Southgate right off of 27th Street. That was the one I was going to since I was a kid. I used to take the bus to go there because no one ever wanted to go to movies with me. And my mom was always impressed because like there'd be times like I wanted to see a movie, and I'd ask both my parents if they wanted to go. My dad didn't like leaving the house very much. I just don't think he wanted to pay the money. And I was like, well, I want to go see this movie, and no one would go with me. I was like, well, fine, I'll go by myself. And I would take the bus from I lived over off of Pine. I would take it down Oklahoma all the way to 27th Street, walk the rest of the way, and go watch the movie by myself.
Yeah, I remember when Southgate had the 70 millimeter screen. That was way before what's there now. Mm-hmm. I had my car broken into there once. Last time I was there, I had to dodge gunfire, so I didn't go back. I used to work at the Walgreens there. I was one of the managers at that Walgreens.
Okay.
It was not pleasant times. That's a rough area. That's a really rough
It's area. Not that area is not too bad. Funny enough, probably because I grew up in Milwaukee. It's like 27th Street was always kind of like when things started getting better because the lower numbers is where it could sometimes be worse. But like I always knew, it was like if I was at least at 27th or higher, it was fine. Well,
it used to be Wisconsin Avenue was kind of the Mason-Dixon line, but now it's pushed so far south. Like that area on 27th Street, I don't like going to. It's rough. It's bad. Like when I worked at that Walgreens for 3 years. I was third shift. I was a third shift manager. and that was far more dangerous than third shift on 35th in Wisconsin.
Interesting.
It was, yeah, it was. Part of the problem was the hospital, because
Mhm.
all of the homeless crackheads in the area would go to the emergency room. They'd get their prescription for 5 Percocet or 5 Oxycontin, and then they'd come to Walgreens and they'd, scribble on, put a 1 before the 5 or a 0 after it to try to get, try to fake
Mhm.
the prescription. Yeah, it was a nightmare. I could go on for hours about that, but yeah, I don't know. I last time I went to that theater, it wasn't a good experience. It was just dangerous. So, but I
See,
like Marcus Theater. I love Marcus Theaters.
I guess I never thought it as being dangerous. But granted, different experiences. I never worked third shift or anything there, but I don't know. That was my home theater for the longest time. I would take buses there. I
Yeah,
would.
when that first opened up, it opened up before Marcus had it. It was a different.
Mhm.
It was like a independent. Some rich
Mhm.
guy just wanted to watch movies, so he built a theater.
Yeah.
It was pretty good then, but now it's just, I don't know. I wouldn't be there
Mm.
after dark. Like that Walmart that's there. It's like the highest theft Walmart in Milwaukee, in the Milwaukee County area. That's the highest theft Walmart. It's
Mm.
crazy.
See, I grew up in West Bend, so my home theater was the downtown West Bend theater, and it had a candy store, the Candy Man, right next to it. So we'd get our
My
parents would drop us off. We'd go to the Candy
yep.
Man,
My
stuff our
my
pockets full of candy, and then
yep. My wife grew up in that area, so she spent a lot of time down at West. And we actually went
Mhm.
down there recently, just kind of like take trip down memory lane. I think someone bought that theater and is now a
They did.
performing arts theater, but they are showing movies. We actually
It's
bought tickets to see Neverending Story there in a couple weeks just because we wanted to go.
it's
Yeah,
it's
my
have you been in it?
No,
It's
she
nice.
has. I've not been inside of it.
They redid the entire inside. It's just one screen. We went we did on Halloween, we did the showing of Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Cool.
First time that Tom had seen it. It was a lot of fun. But the inside of it is all open concept, and they've got a bar, they serve alcohol.
It's fantastic.
And it's just one screen, and it's real nice. It's nice. I like it.
every one of my home theaters from my youth, my childhood, are gone, long gone.
Aw.
They're all gone. Spring Mall, Southtown,
Yeah.
Skyway, the old Southbridge theaters,
I,
they're all
I
gone.
was really, really excited when someone bought this and said they were going to keep it open as a theater. And they do live shows there. They have comedians that they book there. They do all sorts of different stuff there. It's great.
I
But
love anytime someone tries to keep some of these old theaters open. Like a buddy of mine is
yeah,
a buddy of mine named Matt. He owns the Town Cinema in Watertown, and he's done a lot to keep that thing going because it's an old silent movie house that he's converted into a 3 screen cinema, and he's doing great things over there. So like
that's awesome.
it's a financial burden, especially because like I don't think movie theaters are ever gonna go away. I just think they're gonna
No.
change. Um, and because but I'm glad that people are still trying. It's something I always wanted to do. I wanted to do like a 1 screen little black box down in Bayview, but there's a lot involved with it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's brilliant to do the live shows too, because it
Hmm.
opens up, what you can do with it. And like I heard what happened with the theater is um since they had seniority, the West Bend Theater, they would get first dibs on like first run movies. So they would get all of the first the first runs. They would get the stuff before the Paradise Theater. And so the
Hmm.
owner of that theater bought the downtown theater out just to shut them down so that
That's
they
I
wouldn't get
don't mean to laugh, but that's
I don't
pretty.
know
That's
how I
great.
mean, I've heard it
It's
from
shitty,
multiple
but
sources, but I love the Rivoli in Cedarburg as well. They
not
That
do
was, that
familiar.
was
just
my wife's home theater.
it's a budget theater, and it's all of the employees there except for the projectionist are volunteers, and they've got a list of volunteers a mile long. And so they do second run movies. They'll play stuff that's been out of the theater, but really, really cheap.
Why don't the projectionists volunteer?
They're the only paid position
Yeah, but why don't they volunteer? They should volunteer.
because
Everybody else does. It's not fair.
shut up, Chris. My buddy Mark is one of the projectionists.
I know, that's what I was saying. Why should
You're
Mark get
mean.
paid?
Leave Mark alone.
Why should Mark get paid?
It's
Oh,
a
well.
skill. It's a skill you have to learn.
It is. It really
Yeah.
is. Yeah, I worked as a projectionist for a little bit, and it's not easy.
It
not
takes
easy to
more
do.
than just running a cash register.
Yeah.
A little bit. Speaking of live performances, we're working on more live performances for the Milwaukee Twisted Dreams Film Festival, which is coming up April 14th. Not
My-
April, October.
I was
I'm
gonna
gonna say
say
April.
do
What?
not-
We're not
Like,
April
what?
anymore. We were April for 6 years, but now we had to move to October. So, yeah, we're working on some cool stuff. Matter of fact, next week we have Katie Cadaver on the show
On pop culture?
on Pop Culture.
That's
Katie Cadaver
awesome.
will be here.
She's always a great guest.
Yeah, it's the first time coming on. She is going to be one of the Tromettes for Lloyd Kaufman at the Twisted Dreams Film Festival.
I can't
Oh,
wait
that's
to meet
awesome.
Lloyd.
He's a great guy. I've known him for many years, and I was kind of correct me if I'm wrong, Chris. Wasn't that kind of, one of the ins for you guys getting connected with them?
Yep, that was
I
back
rem-
in 2016, 15.
And
2015.
I remember he called me because when I first emailed him about trying to get involved, and then cutting that shooting that little pre-reel thing,
Mhm.
because usually most of my interactions with Lloyd are usually text or email, and he called me to and I was with family at the time, but it was like I don't. Lloyd doesn't call me often, so when he calls
Right.
me, I was like, okay, let me go take 5 minutes, and we talked for a little bit. He's like, Mike, he's like, I know you, I trust you. Are these guys on the up and up? I was like, yeah, they're good. I wouldn't be working with them if I didn't feel they weren't. And he's like, okay, well then let me know what you need, and I'll get it done.
Yeah, we
That's
want to screen Shakespeare Shitstorm. That's currently the
It's
plan.
great. I've
I
seen
want
it.
to see it so bad.
It's great. I liked it a lot, and it's written by Brandon Bassam, who did the slashing, which was one of my favorite moments that when I got to present that film.
I've seen the trailers for that film, but I haven't seen it yet. I'm excited.
Yeah, Shakespeare Shitstorm was great. It was one of my. I don't know if I can really count it because it technically came out like a year or two ago. It was on my list of favorite films of that year. It's like I don't know if I could technically count that because it hasn't actually gotten official release yet. But I think it's great. It's one of the I truly think it's one of the best films that Lloyd has made. And because I don't know. I'm just kind of hoping I just get to talk to him a little bit when he's there because it's been a couple years since I've seen him.
Oh, you will. You will.
We didn't. I mean, we were supposed to have him on. What was it? 2 years ago that
Mhm.
we did the Zoom,
2020, yeah.
Yeah,
and he was great on that too. How old is Lloyd now?
70 something.
Okay.
Yeah, that was weird. We were going to do the festival in 2020. It was
I
going to
remember
be in
that.
April, like it was always was. And this is, the coronavirus started ramping up, and everything was starting to close down, and we were sweating bullets. Like, what are we going to do? We don't have a plan B. What are we going to do? Lloyd was always on board to come to the festival. He never canceled on us. Never said, never wavered on that. He was going to come no matter what. And then like a month before the festival, we made the decision to go virtual. So we just can't do this in person. We just can't. And a couple of weeks later, like the governor shut everything down, so theaters all closed down anyway. So yeah. Up until that point, Lloyd was going to come, and I thought, man, I don't want to be the event that Lloyd goes to that kills him from coronavirus. Like, I don't want to be known as the guy that killed Lloyd Kaufman. So,
Yeah. No, I think it was smart, but that's actually one thing I've always really appreciated about him is he's one of those guys that if he gives his word to something, unless something truly comes up, he's gonna stick to it. Like
100%. Yeah.
I invited him to my wedding, and he was gonna come until like a week before he got a paid job, and he's like, they're paying me to go to Cuba or something. And I was like, yeah, it makes sense. But he sent me like a care package for my wedding of a bunch of stuff that I think he just dug out of the trauma basement. One of them was actually an animation still from Toxic Crusaders that he signed, and but I truly believe he would have been there if he wouldn't have gotten a job.
Oh, sure, 100%. Yeah, he's going to bring the Toxic Avenger costume, and I am very excited to put that on.
You're going to wear it?
I'm going to wear it.
Oh, that mask! I don't think anyone's washed that. It's the same mask.
I don't care. I don't.
Yeah, I bet that thing stinks.
So when I met Lloyd when I was at the Cannes Film Festival, which that sentence does not sound like it should go together. and I met a good friend of mine named Liam Regan, who directed My Bloody Banjo. And he was in the Toxic Avenger mask. And I actually met him when he was in the bathroom rinsing the mask out,
I'll bring
rinsing the
wipes.
sweat out.
I'll bring wipes. I don't care.
I don't blame you. Like I would probably be excited about it too. Like
I'm going to turn 50 next week, and so I now am eligible for my second booster.
there you
50
go.
and over. So I'll be boosted. I won't have to worry about coronavirus.
No.
I can lick the inside of that mask and be.
I wouldn't, but you can do that if you choose to.
I might.
You'll have to give a full on report of what that mask smells like.
I will. Well, I'm going to bring. Now that you mention it, I will bring some Lysol wipes. Make sure to wipe it out really good with a damp cloth, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I mean, Lloyd Kaufman offers you a chance to be the Toxic Avenger. You don't.
Oh,
turn that down.
you got to take it. No,
you don't turn that down. Molly, would you be the Toxic Avenger?
I would do it. Yeah.
You would do it. See.
All right. Hell, I'd probably do it too.
Yeah.
I actually owe him dinner. First time
Avenger?
No, Lloyd actually. So my whole journey with him was like I met him at the Cannes Film Festival, and we started emailing each other a little bit after that, and I remember he was coming to Chicago to show Return to Nukem High Volume 1, and I emailed him and said, "Hey, I see you're going to be in town. I would love to buy you lunch." And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And he picked a place, and we went down there. And I had every intention to pick up the tab, but I was surprised he actually did. He took care of it, and there was like a couple people there too. And then while we were eating, we were actually having like conversations about like Federico Fellini and like just really like nerdy film conversations. And he said to me, "It's like, well, he's like, Mike, you're a talented editor. Why aren't you editing for me?" And I was like, "Oh, because like a week after Cannes, I reached out to your editing department to join the team as essentially a volunteer, and they told me no because I'm not in the state. I'm not in New York." He's like, "Bullshit. Email me on Monday." And I did, and he said, "It's like, this is Mike. He's a talented editor from Wisconsin. He's now part of the team. Figure it out." And
awesome.
they didn't hire out of state editor or volunteers. So I wasn't hired, but he's like they didn't do out of state editors. So they actually it was a whole convoluted process of I would send them a hard drive. They would just dump footage on it that Lloyd had shot in his adventures, send it back to me, and tell me to figure it out. And I did at least anywhere from 8 to 10 videos for them in about 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And each video would take a couple months, mainly just because I had to go back and forth, and I couldn't. Nothing could be finished until Lloyd gave his approval, and I had to send the hard drive back. So it was a process. But my biggest claim to fame working for them was I cut a video called Tromoma, where they played at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, and that actually, if anyone owns the Toxic Avenger, Class of Nukem High 2, the sequel to the original Nukem High film that came out in the 80s, that video is on the Blu-ray. So that's kind of my claim to fame.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, on that note, kids, I think it's time to wrap things up. Mike, where can we find you online? Do you still do your podcast?
I do, yes. Yeah, I still do the podcast. We're on every podcast platform: Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Audible. Algorithms are the way they are. Like, I didn't know. No offense, I didn't know you were still doing this show because I never see about it anymore. People tell me, people ask me all the time, it's like, "Are you still doing your show?" It's like, yeah, it hasn't gone anywhere. And algorithms being the way they are, it's tough. But no, this is our 6th year. We actually had our 100th episode last season. We had actually Andre Gower from the Monster Squad on. And we're called the Shameless Picture Show. We're on, like I said, all the podcast platforms. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're on pretty much everywhere. And then it's still pretty early on, but then we're actually going to be joining a podcast network soon. We will be joining the Cinepunks podcast network here in the very near future.
Cool. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's fun.
Nice. All right. On that note, let's wrap things up. We'll be back next week with Katie Cadaver of
That'll be a
Grindhouse
good show.
Burlesque. Yeah, it will be. Join us.